Hello, dear colleagues. In a wide sense, we all are doing the same thing involving information technologies. We protect information and analyze codes, etc. My current presentation will be dedicated to managing information security with very pretentious name. Less time for routine, more for creativity. Well, in the beginning, I would like to say several classical simple things, banalities. Why managing informational security topic is so interesting to us? Well, one of the basic documents in information defense, it's the document 93 from 1993, as you may guess. It was accepted by the ministers of Russian Federation. So according to this document 93, one of the main directions of work on protecting the information is to provide effective management of the system which manages protection information, which has several main directions. And from the real practice, from life, we can see that application of this document 93 tells us that activities in the area of managing the system of protecting information is not just the main direction, but the most important direction. Without cognitive management of such a difficult type of activities as protecting the information, everything else is not effective and sometimes even meaningless. Once again, I would like to quote. Can you read it on the screen? Well, I would like to quote well-known documents from the federal law. Article 16 of the Federal Law 149 FZ. The main objective of the information protection is to provide defense from unauthorized access, etc., etc. Following the confidentiality of the information, realization of the rights to access to information. So these are three aspects of information security: providing confidentiality, integrity, and accessibility. And to be even more boring in a very small cups, several terms. In the context of informational defense, information security, the management system is a systemized set of tools of collecting the information about subcontrolled objects. If we're speaking about the system of information protection, it's a collection of information about the system of such information protection, information security. So the object of management in the context of information security is a system of information security, not in the technical sense of it. And I would like to bring to your attention about the system as a complex organizational technical system which represents set of bodies or executors, people, the techniques used by them, techniques of informational protection, and objects of protection, which is information. It's organized and it functions according to legal framework existing at that moment of time and documents which were adopted in the organization. So the rules which define security in the framework of that particular company. The subject of management in the context of informational security, subjects are people or groups of people, organizations authorized by documents, and they have the right and possibility to make influencing decisions on this security system. That's perhaps how it looks like. Well, this slide, which shows why is the main reason for such configuration. Well, it's very simple. The more effectively information security specialist works, the more he obstructs the work of those who do the informatization. And you all face this situation. We work in conditions of limited resources, financial resources, time resources, human resources, and there's a very acute competition for those resources. So everybody acts on the limit of their possibilities and capabilities, and every obstacle is perceived negatively in many cases. Well, speaking the truth, it's hard for me to judge any of you present here, and there are people, I guess, who work in the area of information security in organizations, and you can confirm to the fact that it's very difficult sometimes to justify the necessity for such a work, especially among developers of the informational system and end users of those systems. It is obvious that any tool for defending the information, protecting the information, brings additional aspects which are obstacles, this or that way, to develop new informational systems and their exploitation. All this brings us to a big number of conflict situations, and in order to resolve them, in order not to forget about the principles of information security, in order not to violate the main requirements of information security, which are defined by the legal framework and our own documents inside of the organization, one should apply cleverness of mind. You should use a creative approach, which requires significant intellectual load, which requires daily communications between departments, for example, like in our company today. And it is very useful, and sometimes it is very nice. It's always nice to exchange your ideas with somebody else, but which unfortunately sometimes in the practice, in real life, it's very difficult to achieve due to the fact that in the area of information security we have a big number of routine objectives, daily, boring, tiring, and honestly speaking, not always, how can I say it, not always intellectually interesting. Well, to list the routine objectives, well, I would like to list them, those which call a certain boredom on the side of those who are looking at them. Well, let's begin from top down. Collection analysis of data about the current security of information. Preparing of standard reports. Well, this is a usual daily common paperwork. Do you want to do it or you don't want to do it? If you want to jump on the white horse, break everybody, destroy everybody, tell how it should be done, build this system of informational security, but in life it doesn't happen like that. This work is much more boring than following the controlled deadlines of execution of the tasks that were set. Well, in the beginning, when I faced such a fatal number of reports, not in informational security, but in medical facility, as strange as it may seem, poor doctors, they, instead of treating people, they had to do such a crazy paperwork every day. Several hours they spent on making papers. It's not so fatal, but believe us, paperwork sometimes is overloading, especially reporting to managing companies with certain deadlines and with certain execution of those objectives. Then, next routine is increasing the level of awareness of the authorized entities and users. Once again, if people present here are among those departments which are responsible for information security, they have a lot of anecdotes about the users. Whatever you tell to the users, you still have to explain it to them repetitively. You have to explain to them. So it's the main objective, which takes a lot of time, and without which you'll not be able to achieve your targets. Then, next one, centralized storage and actualization of information and documentation in the area of information security. Every user and every employee has their own file system, local files on their local disks, and a lot of miracles starts around them when they start playing with those files, which is caused by different versions of those documents, updates of those documents, and then finally audit of information security. Following those routine tasks, doing this routine job, as I've told you, well, it's a very boring activity from the first point of view and even from the second point of view. But this repetitive operations, they have to be automated. In other words, if you will look at the activities of the security specialist as the activities of a regular employee, then for the specialist in the area of information security, it is necessary to have a specialized automated system available which will automate his work and free his time for solving more creative tasks, creative objectives. Well, the objective of automation in the area of information security, you see all those targets on this slide. You can read them. They're very obvious and traditional for any automated management system in the area of human activities, in any area of human activities. The main objective is to do more with limited resources, with limited time resources, human resources, and perhaps as also financial resources as well. This particular slide, well, there could be certain doubts available. Who of them is class, who of them is order? That's why I'm showing it to you. The class and order. The order beats class. In order to solve the information security tasks, you need highly qualified specialists available, and even due to the fact that they have to withstand not less qualified specialists in those who break the systems, those who penetrate the systems. Unfortunately, the world becomes more and more complex, and to find necessary amount of qualified specialists, well, it becomes more and more difficult. It's expensive, it's kind of a headhunting, and not every organization is able to buy qualified specialists in the area of information security, which will provide security not only to the documentation but also actual defense of the information from actual attacks against information security. Usage of approaches in automating their activities does facilitate the possibility so that medium trained specialist which uses this automation can simplify his activity, could regulate his activity and systemize this activity. He can withstand maybe even higher class enemy, maybe even more advanced enemy from the point of view of competency, but without using certain organized activities. Let's begin with the data collection. Traditional data collection looks the following way. It's a big number of questionnaires about the condition of the system. It's a big number of documents, as you can see it here, with various number of graphs, lines, columns. It's investigation of instructions, work instructions, provisions. So it's a work for analytic. Data collection brings us to the following situation. Yes, you can collect the data, but what will you do with all these papers, even in electronic formats, whether you can drown yourself or hang yourself up? Moreover, in big organizations with well-developed branched system collection of documents, especially paper documents, and even electronic documents with the usage of traditional document flow systems sometimes may take, according to my experience, up to a month. And when you need to collect a repetitive set of information, you did not finish the first one. So when a big organization or branch will provide you the data, the actuality of this data is doubtful. For these, we should use automated data collection and processing. Well, a small thing I forgot to tell you. The data source for analysis, we can use people, personnel, and security people of subject organizations and technical means. In the first case, we can speak about automated data collection if we're using technical means of its collection. For example, scanner of vulnerabilities, then we can speak about automatic data collection. So the automated data collection is proposed, well, it is proposed to use the interface to fill the questionnaires, Then system of centralized storage should be used for all the information collected with checking for its correctness and actuality. And then applications which provide analysis and forming of the reporting documents. So initial analysis, which allows us to see the dynamics, file control changes, form certain integral indicators, and of course a possibility to look retrospectively due to eternal data storage and its growing volumes, of course, as a consequence. On a given slide, you can see the user interface on the basis of thin client of a prototype of a system which currently is being tested in the administration of St. Petersburg. As you can see, it's a very basic interface, but nevertheless, briefness is a sister of a talent, but it's very clear and understandable. The usage of automatic means of data collection. Automatic means of data collection. In a given case, you see the scanner vulnerabilities, even though you can see a lot of different data sources, like analysis of security, log file analysis systems, and other ones. According to the data that we have acquired, we form the scanning report, then in the informational system we do the report analysis, and then the most interesting part of it, it's the automatic setting of the objectives for the responsible people to remove those vulnerabilities that were discovered. Then vulnerabilities, it is assumed they have to be removed with a check mark that it has been removed. And the next step being is that initial data source should provide information that those vulnerabilities were removed not only on the basis of the words of security guy, but also report of their removal. Actual confirmation of their removal should be provided by the system. Well, it's an example of a report. You can see on this particular slide. Well, you maybe cannot see it pretty well. Intensively, it was shown in such a way. So the standard report is formed in a standard format for reporting to the higher organizations in the area of information security. The next routine objective is a control of event deadlines for the execution of those works. So which events are mandatory for us? Well, there's a lot of them. Deadlines of the ends of licenses in organizations which are involved in the issue of information security, for example, subcontractors, the deadlines of certificates, deadlines of the compliance certificates, deadlines for upgrading the qualification of specialists. You all well know that if the person is not being trained, he loses his specification, he loses his quality. The deadlines for control events like audit events. And the audits in the given case are not only from the side of controlling organizations, but also the internal audit as well, periodical one. An audit of security should be done at least twice a year. Deadlines for tasks and other control points, which we have a lot, and in each of your companies you have a lot of those control points and tasks to be executed. For example, I also have deadlines for the annual measures of informational protection. So how we can achieve all these goals and solve it by the means of automation? the source of these objects which have the expiration period. So, for example, when you put the information in the system of centralized storage, and on the basis of this information, we can form the next objectives and next notifications for the users. Basically speaking, perhaps some of you will think about the possibility that these tasks have already been solved by the means of planners, standard planners, or systems of electronic turnover. However, unfortunately, standard software in a given case are not applicable due to a number of reasons. Well, first of all, one should understand that information about the security defense has the highest level of confidentiality as the information that is being protected. So any information about the security system is the information of a limited access. So by using standard means which don't have proper certificate for undeclared capabilities availability, we also, well, it's doubtful to use them. It includes certain risks. In addition to that, in most of the cases, these systems are too excessive and require additional adaptation for the specifics of informational security objectives. So in any case, one needs to work on them in order to customize them. Preparing the documents. Well, there's a number of problems in this area. First of all, it's a problem of availability of legal documents in different areas on different information resources. These are information legal systems like Codex, Garant. These are various file dumps, as we call them. These are blogs of well-known information security specialists who publish sometimes document drafts in some cases. These are internet sites, and we can find a lot of them in the internet. So if you want to find a proper version of a document, authentic document, authentic to what is acceptable on the legislative level, sometimes it becomes very difficult. Another problem is that some documents are limited in access, which also does not facilitate to their distribution through the systems of common access. Next one, version control of those documents. Each document has a certain life period. Each one of them has to be actualized. So two documents with the same names, with the same records, sometimes you can find documents of different versions, of course, with a different content. And it's very difficult to find a way around that. Then delivering documents to the executors, control of their understanding by executors. Each document can be read by different executors differently, and each one of them sees what is applied to their competency and their life experience, and everybody are used to communicate in non-formal decisions to simplify their own language, not to follow the complex verbal constructions, but to use jargonisms, slang, which also destroys the initial content. So in the practice, we often face the situation that the same document can be perceived by the end user totally inadequately and differently from how it is supposed to be perceived. Then a full layer of documents related to project construction and working documentation, which is located all over globally in the whole Russia. First of all, this is related to the fact that when informational systems are being developed, this work is done not by the owner, not by the operator of the system, but by some subcontractor. And this subcontractor very often does not perceive his own documents accurately in a proper manner. So in case of absence of centralized storage of those documents which reflect project solutions and solutions for the working design. Very often client loses his ends because without documented system he cannot find those ends, and it's very difficult to develop such system in the case of its absence. So what can be done? All the legal documents should be stored in one centralized database. When you create such a centralized database for documents, you should develop a search system. Then documents should be delivered to the executives with the control of their knowledge. At least the simplest, the basic knowledge. It will increase the awareness of the end users about these particular documents. Next one, we should form the electronic profile of the informational system with attached documentation to this one. Well, the system that is being proposed and conceptually being developed by us right now, this function is being fulfilled. The following routine objective, which requires a lot of time, is to increase the awareness. And it involves a number of aspects. Informing the authorized entities about the threats to security, informing authorized people about the rules of exploitation of the system of information security. Next one, training and control of knowledge, and timely informing of those people who's responsible for discovering those incidents. So all these positions are defined by the order number 17 by Stack of Russia, which is a good decision. And finally, the final routine task is an audit, periodical audit. We can include the compliance to information security of regulations from the regulation point of view by certification or by attestation, and also internal audits of informational systems by the operator himself. Then it is assumed to form the reporting documents upon the result of this audit and control and removal of discoveries that were discovered in order to protect information in the main organization and its subdivisions, with the following resolution of all the problems discovered. In real life, what do we have in our company? Well, it's a rough estimation, but a total picture can be illustrated by it. The number of people authorized for making this decision, more than 150. It's related to the bodies of authority. This is also related to ministries and sub-ministries. If we're speaking, for example, about budget organizations, there are thousands of those, like on the level of municipalities. The number of informational systems, speaking about the state information system, there are more than 200 of those. And if we will look at different systems, less SPDNs, like accounting systems, accounting and headhunting organizations, well, there are thousands of those software products used by the number of hosts. The rough assessment tells us that it's more than 10,000. Unbelievable. And at the same time, the time of reaction to the events of information security, to the violation of information security, less than 1 hour. In the course of 1 hour, otherwise, the attackers can do a lot of bad things. Well, it's unrealistic to provide management of information security in these conditions. So without a good system of automation of the organizational activities, we don't see further development. It's impossible. So, in total, the system that is being proposed from our point of view, for the implementation and for discussion with you, of course, solves all 5 objectives in the framework of one system. Out of that, this presentation, we have objectives of automation of more creative processes as analysis of threats and vulnerabilities, risk assessment, assessment of the efficiency of the system of informational security, analysis of incidents, etc., etc. So this is something that security guys should do. And these are the questions outside of my presentation, but nevertheless, well, everything else can be automated. This is my deep conviction, and this is our further direction of activity. Well, in the final slide, let's leave some time for creativity. So I would like to hear your comments or questions, if you have any. Thank you very much for your attention. I didn't hear the question. The fact is that we cannot propose this system because we are the public authority organization and we're not involved in commercial activities. So we don't sell this system, we develop it for our own custom needs. But if you're interested in this topic, we're ready to share our experience and we are ready to discuss this question with you. But we don't have the right to sell this system to the external users. The question is not about the platform, the question is not about the way of realization, the question is about approaches utilized. I don't hear the question because it's not asked in the microphone. Well, I will begin with Ian. I don't see any extra points of fault. They're not here. What do you mean by the extra points of entry? I don't hear the question. The questions which are not asked. Well, the fault of the system returns us to what do we have right now. So right now we are in denial, let's say. And from the point of view of user interfaces, once again, the system is dedicated not for the users from the point of view of users of this informational system, but for the users on the security side, security department. It's the automation of their work we're thinking about and we're working on. Filling these questionnaires is done, and you won't believe it, it's done on the paperwork with a signed NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and all our boxes are filled with these papers, and we have to do it. We have direct indications from the top management, and we cannot go against them. Well, I would ask the most important question. Which platform you use, what have you integrated with what during installation of this system? Well, the architecture is a traditional one. Java, server of applications, Tomcat, database server. Well, this presentation is not advertising, so I don't think it's proper thing to say the names of specific vendors. Well, I will risk, of course. You are absolutely right. And in any case, we are integrated with Max Patrol as a scanner of defense analysis, and their presence here makes it obvious. Welcome. Questions are not asked in the microphone. Therefore, I cannot translate them. Perhaps that's the end. Well, thank you very much for your attention.